Hey everyone, I know it seems very bizarre, having two videos back to back about the exact same topic. The last one was about, Hasan, Piker and Frogan, and how they legitimately deserve to fall off. Okay, that video was alright. But now, while I was editing that video, I had to look up a lot of stuff, for the context, the clips, everything, screenshots. And now, I know it seems crazy to be a lot of time has passed, but the more I look into the story, like I said, for editing, the more stuff I found on Hasan, and that stuff people were saying about him, that made me be like, oh my god, yeah, he was way much worse than I believed him to be, and much worse than, I portrayed him or, treated him in the other video, cause I was being very charitable. I was being very charitable towards him, being very innocent. But now seeing the more stuff, in specific, his whole drama with even Klein from H3, his whole podcast, he's much worse than I could have imagined, and with what I knew in the other video. And I even said, myself, the whole drama between them two was something very key that I've got to talk about. But at the same time, I didn't really get a full picture of it. And now, after some time has passed, and I took the time, to watch, Ethan's take on it, and in his own video called Addressing Hasan and His Community on the podcast, it made me realize just how much shit Hasan, has caused for this whole drama, and how he really did make it worse at his own volition by being, a fucking moron and just being lazy as well. Right, first of all, I had no idea the amount of shit that, Hasan caused for Ethan, the amount of, sicking his fans on him, and it's so bizarre to find the actual origin of this drama, because it's that dumb. From what Ethan mentioned, it started around, this point where someone, I imagine it was Hasan's friend, would put this picture, grouping Ethan with Destiny, Bill Mayer, and worst of all, Asman. Okay, these are the three people. I have no idea, about Bill Mayer and Destiny, but the fact, that he poisoned this guy, the guy that made the tweet, the fact that he poisoned the well, this whole pod, by throwing Asman in there. He's saying that Ethan shares the same views, of Islamic culture being inferior as Asman, they're sharing the same opinion. And he's retweeting this with the caption, I hope they commit Suicide Squad. Just saying, he hopes all these four people kill themselves because they're all pieces of shit, including Ethan, with no evidence of what, opinions he might share with Asman or anyone else, actually. And that's so bizarre that someone should, retweet that out of nowhere with, no context and get, how many likes did it get? It got a shit ton. Let me go back and find it. 90k likes. My 90k likes believe that, they agree with this guy, the guy that made the retweet, that, they should all kill themselves. My god. Okay, but now to move back, to what I said about, Hasan being insane and just very lazy. In Ethan's podcast, in his stream, he mentioned how over the course of this drama, this whole conflict, I'm talking about the Palestine conflict, for the whole discourse, he's been lumping Ethan as a Zionist simply because he's Israeli. No actual opinion or any actual clips of, Ethan having very bad opinions as a Zionist, just saying simply, oh, he's Israeli, well then automatically, he's a piece of shit that wants to kill all Palestinians and believes in genocide. Oh, and that's the lead, the way that, has a domino effect is because, he throws that out there very willingly with no evidence or, no explanation. And his fans, with someone as big as, Hasan, when you throw an opinion out there with nothing, your fans will take that as food, go to the other person, and tear them apart like a dog.
Okay, so then that's what it's about. When I unfollowed her, and then she said I hate Arabs and stuff in Hasan's Discord. And instead of, and this is a mod on his channel, instead of, having a word with her about, what's going on, he actually chastised me. For what? Let's see.
Ethan is very frustrated and very emotional in this moment, but doesn't recognize that, perhaps a Lebanese woman who's a hijabi in the United States of America could also be very emotional in this exact same moment. You know what I mean? Like, that's what's so... And the reality of the matter is, anti-Semitism is an unacceptable form of bigotry, whereas Islamophobia is a very acceptable form of bigotry. So being the bigger person in this situation, regardless of your feelings...
So anyway, and God forbid you actually read the chat. But what I'm hearing, frankly, is that anti-Semitism is not really an issue. And so you shouldn't, your complaints are less equal than Frogan's complaints because Islamophobia is more serious than anti-Semitism.
It was the same show with his wife, with Ethan's wife, Hila, where she's also Israeli. And she was inscripted in the IDF, the defense force in Israel, back like years ago. And they were throwing her in there as well, being like, oh, you piece of shit Zionist, killing Palestinians. Like, watch nothing at all, based off, nothing. And I will address now, the biggest thing that I didn't really, fully wrap my head around was how people were calling Hasan anti-Semitic. But now seeing all the evidence that Ethan put up on his stream, of how Hasan would just throw Jews and Zionists in the same pit, putting them in a category of being the same people, then yeah, I definitely get it now, and how there's no excuse for it other than being a moron like he's being right now. Some people are calling it a stretch, but I think the example I even put from Reddit of a guy saying how over the past year as a Jew it's been really hard. I think he made a good comparison to how this was similar, to back in 2020 with all stop the Asian hate. Well, people in Asia or Asian people, they were being discriminated. That was fair. But now, during this whole conflict, this whole story around the world, people can easily shit on, Jewish people, because in their eyes or in their mind, there's nothing different between those two sayings, and people mainly believe that because of streamers like Hasan, where they get millions of viewers, and they're all watching him on stream, peddling this shit around willingly with just nothing. So that was one thing, putting Jews and Zionists in the same group. But it makes it much worse when you see the violent acidic aggression that he's promoting against Zionists. Okay, for one, I'll go back to that Houthi pirate from Yemen that he was promoting back 9 months ago, where that guy, that fucking pirate, that fucking terrorist, he put out a tweet saying how it was so bizarre. He was saying how he's gonna execute all Zionists by impaling them from the ass to the mouth, the most violent way possible. And to any Hasan viewer, to any big liberal that wants support Palestine, it seemed like a very fair. But when you step back and look how most Jewish people are being grouped into Zionists, then it makes you realize wow, this is just clearly being anti-Semitic. And speaking of that pirate, that Houthi pirate terrorist from Yemen that Hasan himself talked to and supported him, comparing him to Luffy, hell yeah, number one anime character.
Does he know what One Piece is?
أكيد يعني منذ الطفولة وأنا أشاهد ون بيس لوفي.
Luffy?
Yeah, he said he's been watching it since he was a kid.
No way! We think the Houthis, Ansar Allah, is doing what Luffy would do. You should tell him that.
بيقول لك حسن إنه اللي الحوثيين عم بيسووه زي اللي لوفي اللي بيسويه لوفي.
يعني والله الصدق يعني إحنا يعني.
There was one clip, there was another part where once I watched it fully, Ethan's podcast, Ethan's stream, there's one part where he really can defend it as a viewer of Hasan, where it looked so bad. During one stream, Hasan and his friend was more like Hasan made his friend watch a video on YouTube of the terrorist organization that the pirates in, where they go in a helicopter and they take over a fucking boat, a huge ship liner for holding cargo. And to any normal person, they'd be like, okay, this is clearly a crime, clearly a terrorist act. When you watch Hasan react to it, he's so clearly, soy boys over it, being like, oh my god, they're saving Palestine, they're tearing down the Israeli government somehow.
So they started taking over these ships. They started like they started targeting the shit.
Appreciate
If you pass
the
through,
flowery
they communicate with
language.
you, they're
He
like,
loves
hey, where are
it.
you going? Whatever, blah blah blah. If you're trying to get in there, we're gonna fucking bomb you.
Are there people on this helicopter right now?
Yes. What do you mean? Of course there are people on this helicopter. What do you think? It's a fucking drone?
I feel so bad for his friend. You know, the face he makes is like, what the fuck are you talking about? But it's so bizarre. I think the reasoning that Hasan brings up is so dumb. It's actually funny. Oh, if you think about it, all the cargo, like all the deliveries for Israeli citizens, is gonna piss them off that's missing. So now they're gonna move out. If they're gonna move out of Israel, like yeah, that's definitely gonna happen. And second of all, Ethan makes a good point like on how in this video or in some other like incident where they kidnapped the hostages. First of all, this ship company is not even Israeli. And second of all, the hostages they took, the crew members on ship, none of them in one incident at least, and none of them were actually Israeli. They had a couple of Philippine people, some Polish guys, some Ukrainians, and worst of all, one Romanian. That really pissed me off. So yeah, when you think about it, it really is like the biggest stretch of trying to promote a terrorism organization for being like, oh, where they're tearing down the Israeli government, or they're trying to stop them from committing genocide somehow, when they're just stealing a fucking ship for their own benefit and taking hostages. Like you have to be delusional like him at this point to believe that what they're doing is right to prevent the genocide. Watching this clip right here was like a huge pivot for me, where I went from like believing that Hasan was dumb and like unconscious, like being delusional, to just me being like, wow, he really is like a huge piece of shit that is just moronic, like actually has no opinion. Well, it's even that scary. Like he has the worst opinion ever, but he has a huge fan base that will believe anything he says and peddle it around all over the internet. Which brings me to my other point of how, in this whole drama, the subreddit from Hasan and Ethan have a huge part in this whole, in this whole discourse. Normally, in most big dramas, the fan base and subreddit, barely do anything, they might, make like a gay Reddit post, but that's it. However, in this one story, Ethan showed multiple times on Hasan's subreddit how, like, from what Hasan has been feeding them, they will keep on peddling this shit of how Ethan is a Zionist and how all Zionists, deserve to be fucking genocided themselves, like complete irony from what they make it seem that they believe. And the worst thing of all, in my opinion, that really pisses me off, anyone in Hasan's subreddit, that tries to defend Ethan for the sake of, of a fair argument, they get downvoted to absolute kingdom fuck. Like if they say like anything like, okay guys, is there any clip of of Ethan giving a Zionist opinion, like a very bad claim? Nobody will give any context, and everyone come will be like, man, fuck you, like why are you defending Ethan? Like there's no room for argument at all, where everyone's like being like a blind fan, just like being stuck in an echo chamber. I mean, it is Reddit. You can't expect anything else, than the worst opinion. But it goes back to what I said before, like how Hasan's being lazy by, feeding his fans all this shit, like giving them a bit of poison, a bit of venom, and then like doing no interference, going to the Reddit and like telling people the actual context, or stopping them from, from giving Ethan a shit ton of hate, which he got fucking everywhere online. Like he could so easily like make a Reddit post being like, okay guys, or even on stream being like, guys, I apologize to Ethan, he hasn't done anything wrong. I don't, agree with him in most takes, but in this one time, I apologize for all this shit I said about him. But so far, right now at this stage, he hasn't done that at all. In most past dramas, a big red flag for anyone has been that if they use their own fan base as a group of piranhas to send after people and tear them apart, you can't really trust them as being a fair person that doesn't want the worst violent action to be taken against someone else that they don't like. So taking that into consideration, I definitely understand much better how this whole drama on Hasan's part, it has, the very clear signs of seeds of anti-Semitism. And I get now why groups like Stop Anti-Semitism literally call out Hasan and Twitch for, for like boosting him, keeping him on a platform, and now, banning him, when he's very clearly peddling this awful shit and straight up promoting terrorism, so sun clear. Oh, that was another thing as well, people giving shit to Dan Clancy. the CEO of Twitch. And initially I was like, does he deserve it? But now that I see, like he very clearly he's clearly aware of, Hasan and what he's been doing, then yeah, I think it's fair to call him, an awful CEO for not stepping in and doing anything, like just being lazy or believing the shit that Hasan is saying. I mean, he's a whole different story, but yeah, in general, as a CEO, he's doing an awful job for doing nothing actually. But yeah, to put a cap on, on Hasan, or at least in this video, I really retract my original opinion in the last video, being like, oh, he might be able to, back walk this, and save his career. Because now, after seeing the full picture of most of it, an awful fucking painting, I definitely see no future for him at all. Because not only like is most of the stuff that he did, like with no excuse, awful, but also people like him, like huge fucking liberals, like liberators, whatever. People like that, they never change their opinion about anything. They're always right, and they've never apologized for, what wrong they did, no matter how much the fans, turn on them. And will his fans turn on him? I'm not sure. But if they're on his side, then yeah, they're probably around like the same level of IQ of being brain dead. But I think the whole internet, the whole online community on Twitch, or just everyone online, they would definitely never look at Hasan the same way and just see him as a moron, like an inexcusable piece of shit that deserves nothing. And I'm definitely part of that group, because after this whole story, just fuck him in general, like what a piece of shit.